Have you ever imagined what planet Earth might look like if the continents joined again? Well, Lisbon University researcher João Duarte has detailed how layers of the Earth move a few centimeters a year. They can eventually come together and combine into a supercontinent, which remains for a few 100 million years before breaking up again. These movements take about 500 million years.
A supercontinent is when all the continents gather together in one very big continent. I think some of you may have heard about Pangaea. So this was the last supercontinent that was formed approximately like 200 million years ago. So when the dinosaurs ruled the Earth. Since then, that big supercontinent break up and led to the formation of the Atlantic Ocean. We now see that remains from this ocean because you know that Africa and South America, they fit together like it was in a puzzle. That was how the first time the idea of a supercontinent came together by Alfred Wegener, which was one. Yes.
Should these movements go ahead and occur, I understand there are 4 scenarios before us. What would those look like?
Yes, so we know that there was one supercontinent in the past. We also know that before Pangaea there were other supercontinents. So it makes sense to think that there will be another supercontinent forming in the future. And we are halfway through the current supercontinental cycle, so we think that these may form in 200 million years. So the question is, for us to form a supercontinent, we have to close oceans, right? Because the continents today are separated by oceans, like the Atlantic and the Pacific. And for the continents to come together, we have to close these oceans. And they close in subduction zones. The subduction zones are places where tectonic plates sink below one below the other. And those are the places where we have big earthquakes. So in the future, we may think like the most obvious is the Atlantic is opening and the Pacific Ocean may close. This is one of the scenarios. But other colleagues have proposed that maybe the Atlantic Ocean actually to close. And there are a few evidence for that, and we are studying it today because there are already subduction zones in the Atlantic. Other people have proposed that the continents may gather near the North Pole. This is because present-day continents are slightly moving to the north. And another scenario, which was our more recent scenario, states that both the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean have to close. And this is because the oceans have also a kind of lifetime. We know that oceans, they form when supercontinents break up. They have a time life, and after a certain point, they disappear and they are recycled back in the mantle, in the Earth's mantle.
Tell me this then, Dr. Duarte, what role, if any, would global warming play in all of this?
So the global warming will not have a direct effect because it works on time scales. But what happens is for us to understand climate change and things like climate change and the climate that changed in the Earth's past. So sometimes for us to think or to try to predict how the climate will adjust to these big tectonic movements will allow us to understand some patterns on the climate and also, for example, on ocean circulation, because if you are shifting the continents, the oceans will change shape, and also the atmosphere will adjust in a different way. So a lot of times, by doing this exercise of trying to understand how the Earth behaves at very long time scales, we can get an insight on things like climate change. So the climate will not affect directly the tectonics, but there is a feedback. So the climate adapts to the tectonics.
So that's climate. Once it's all happened, what becomes of human life on the different continents? Will there be any change at all?
So one of the things, like, of course, in 200 million years, we'll probably have evolved a lot significantly, and we'll probably be not humans anymore. But in any case, it's nice to see, because we know that, for example, when a supercontinent gets dispersed, life evolves, and there's a lot of new species because you have separation. Think about the marsupials in Australia. because Australia at a certain point became an island, and the life forms, they evolve, and the species. And when they come together, there will be, of course, a lot of competition and a lot of different species coming together in the same space. So you could think on that as humans, we live at a very different time scale. But of course, it's interesting to think what will happen when these kind of things happen